Gotta do the sharing out and all that good stuff too.
I cheated and did it before.
Oh, nice. I'm bad like that. I really should. I'm just the worst and I don't.
I'm slowly getting better. It's almost like I know what I'm doing.
Right? I mean, I shared it a couple days ago, but I haven't done anything today. Sundays are my lazy day sometimes.
I can understand that.
All right. Hello, hello, everybody. Oh, last thing. So, hi, hello. How is everybody? It's been, what, 6 weeks since we've seen everybody?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, we kind of spaced out the last couple. We both had a lot going on. I'm really grateful because I've been sick. I'm finally feeling better, and I'm glad it was a short read this time because I legit read it yesterday.
Nice.
But yes, so anyways, hi, I'm Shay. This is April. We've been doing this for years now. So if you're not familiar with either of us or you're not following April, shame on you. You're the only one to blame for that. So everything's linked down below. Make sure you check out April's channel. And she does a lot of like coloring streams and reviews and things like that. I love her channel. She's one of my favorite humans, has been for a long time. But yes, so our read this month, well, the last 6 weeks or so, was A Spindle Splintered by Alix E. Harrow. This is definitely a Sleeping Beauty inspired story. By the way, hi, super roommate. Thank you. I'm glad I'm feeling better too. This one I have thoughts on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to April, let her go first, and then I will dive in and share my thoughts as needed.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we thought very similar.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
These streams are always full of spoilers. If you have not read A Spindle Splintered and you don't want it spoiled for you, this is not the stream for you. I'm sorry. But we are going to talk in full spoilers, especially because this is only a little over 100 pages. So we kind of have to talk in spoilers, or there will be legitimately nothing to talk about.
Yes.
All right. There you go. Spiel done. If you want to avoid spoilers, bye. Check out another video of us. Okay.
So this story, I kind of went in hoping that this story, this adult Sleeping Beauty story, was a little bit like the Wayward Children series.
That's kind of what I was hoping for too, honestly.
Yeah, an adult version of it, of course, but it still had that like magical quality to it that just gave you those like feels of those stories and those fairy tales and all of that nostalgia. But this was just a straight up, this is all the things we know about Sleeping Beauty. This is all of the iterations we know of Sleeping Beauty. How can we take this story, throw in a little bit of political correctness or political commentary, and kind of steal the magic of fairy tales out of it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So instead of seeing fairy tales as a way to kind of make this like magical quality out of real life hard situations, we have a story.
We open with Sleeping Beauty is the fairy tale you like when you're a girl who wants to die. And I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
and I thought maybe it was going to go more of like a thriller horror kind of feel at that point. And so I was on board in the beginning. But then the further we got in, the more I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing with it? We're going to make a feminist sapphic take where all men are awful? Really? This is where we're going to go. Okay.
Like I said, you could definitely feel the political agenda of what this story was. Which,
very clear.
I know fairy tales are used as a way to teach lessons or say something, but
But
it's
there are ways to do it well. I mean, the Lunar
yeah.
Chronicles had a way of adding some of that political correctness and things and calling people on racist behavior throughout the entirety of the series, where you can have that kind of an agenda, but you still have the whimsy of a fairy
Hmm.
tale woven through the entire thing, even though you're in space and dealing with cyborgs and a lunar, alien lady trying to take over the planet. Like, you
Yeah.
can change it up and change the political feel and the political climate of the book, but you can still make it feel like a fairy tale. And I feel like this one kind of tried to do that, but didn't do it well. I think
Hmm.
maybe if it had had a little more time and been a little bit longer, some of that whimsy could have been brought back into the story.
Yeah.
Because the fact that it is a little over 100 pages, there was plenty of room to take some time, even just adding 30 to 40 pages, building your atmosphere and the feel of a fairy tale, and it would have been a totally different experience.
Yeah, and I'm gonna. It's hard not to compare this to the Wayward Children series because
Exactly,
that
because those are novellas done so well, full of whimsy.
yeah, it took the darkness of fairy tales and it's saying something very deep with it, but you still have that whimsy, that magical feel. But this one, it kills all of that.
Pretty
But I
quickly,
mean,
too.
yeah, it's nice to see some of the origins of Sleeping Beauty come up, and I understand why
Agreed. Now
Sleeping.
that was part of the book that I liked. The fact that we
Hmm.
were talking about the tons of different tellings of this story and how through things like Disney, the story got softened over time. And like all of that is relevant and I think it's important to tell. But at the same time, the way it was delivered was done so just like heavy-handedly and not in the whimsy that
Hmm.
it makes it really hard to get over that point. It's like you're supposed to be comparing a fairy tale here. If you take everything that makes a fairy tale in its feeling, it's not going to be as well received, which is why I know now why I really haven't heard too much about this, even though it's been out, what, a year and a half, almost 2 years now?
Yeah, it's definitely a harder book to swallow, and there's always those two different directions you can take with
Now,
retellings. You have that
to my
dark or that whimsy, and it,
right
it
now,
didn't
to my
choose
comment
either well.
earlier, you know, I'm totally okay with feminist takes on fairy tales. That's not a problem here. And I'm totally okay with sapphic retellings of fairy tales. That's not the problem here. The problem here is stripping away everything that makes a fairy tale feel like a fairy tale and only leaving a very heavy-handed take on Sleeping Beauty's awful, no one should like this fairy tale. That's literally how this book made me feel. And
Yeah,
that
and
was hard to swallow.
and I
Granted,
think
Sleeping
part of
Beauty
it.
is not my favorite fairy tale, and I'll admit that. You know, in the Disney movie, she has a handful of lines that's pointed out in the book, and that's the honest truth. But at the same time, like, there is a way to tell a Sleeping Beauty tale where your Sleeping Beauty has a backbone and all those things that they were trying to criticize. There are ways to tell that story without it being so heavy handed.
Yeah, and to that effect, the narrator Zinnia herself, it's almost like the story tried to make her a little harder than she actually appeared in the actual narrative,
Yeah.
because you had some of these random thoughts or these random comments or things like that that tried to be funny or lighthearted or have some of that whimsy that just kind of clashed with where Zinnia was coming from, and it
Mm-hmm.
muddied everything. So it
Yeah,
needed to pick
though
one direction or the
the whole
other.
comparison of the prince's looks is one of the things that I was just like not having. She's like, he's cute in that like Captain America ish way that does nothing for me. And I'm just like, how can you say that when you know the world loves Captain America? Like, that's not fair to the people who love him. Like,
Yeah.
I understand you're sapphic, you like girls, that's fine. You can just say, if I liked men, I would find him attractive and leave it at that. You know, you didn't have to take this comparison of somebody who's considered an icon in American culture and basically said, yeah, he looks like this bland dude that looks like everybody else. Like, that's just like a disservice to Marvel fans, and I was a little bit peeved. I can't lie.
Well, and it felt like the world that she landed in was a very Disney-esque kind of way, kind of like the movie Enchanted.
Yes, 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 yes.
And
I thought
if
about
she
that a lot as I was reading it.
Yeah, and if she had like described the prince as one of those classic Disney style princesses or princes rather than like choosing an actual human being that we picture in our mind, maybe that wouldn't have felt so.
Icky?
If you had done the generic Prince Charming or the generic
Yeah.
Eric or the
And
generic,
like her best friend being called Charm and things like that. Like some of it was
yeah,
super heavy handed.
mm-hmm. And the fact that what she had Superman tattooed on her,
Uh,
Charm did, and then we were making all of these kind of political commentaries with both like the superhero universe and then even the Harry Potter universe and all of those kind of things. It felt like we
just
were kind of
throwing things in there to throw things in there.
hitting
To make it
everything
feel
that's
modern.
popular. Yeah. Hitting everything that's popular today. And I I think if we had thought more about what we were trying to actually make this story and what we were trying to actually do with this story, maybe it would have felt a little better. And things
Now,
moved really fast too.
oh yeah, to this book's credit, if you're going to take a feminist take on a fairy tale, choosing Sleeping Beauty is a good one to choose because this is one where stereotypically the Sleeping Beauty character is kind of walked all over. If you want to take a feminist take on a fairy tale, this is a great one to play around with. But I do think the approach to this one wasn't quite right. I was really excited in the concept of this, and it's okay to like have a sapphic relationship in the end. Like that didn't bother me at all. I could care less. Like love is love, love who you love. I don't care. It's just the way that she tried to make it feminist wasn't feminist to me because it was just man hate rather than feminism. And to me, there's a very stark line between the two. And maybe that is a me thing, not an everybody else thing. Because you can be a feminist while still being in a healthy relationship to a man. And men can be feminists. And
Right.
a lot of that was just like thrown out the window. And it's just like, we all hate men. And I'm just like, no, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah, and
And
it's kind
making the prince like be on that level where he was going to be the bad kind of prince that was just going to rape his wife and not care about her, like that said it all to me right there.
It's like every single male in that book, except for the dad, was kind of in that same vein.
But even the dad, like it was hinted at the end that the dad may have been that way initially with her mom.
Yeah, forcing his kind of thoughts on her and her living for him kind of thing. Yeah, and I can kind of see that. And it's interesting how this story kind of takes a jab at the Sleeping Beauty trope with that instant love and how Briar Rose didn't even know the prince. She had only so many lines, and yet at the end, you have that happy ever after. But then we did the same thing with Primrose and Charm. They met, right? And then instantaneously, it's like, okay, there's going to be a relationship here. And there's no build up or actual, like, is this going to work? Besides the fact that, hey, we both like girls, so this is going to be a thing because someone's extremely pretty.
Right?
So it's literally the same thing, but just with a different gender.
Right. So it doesn't take any of the problems of it. Because, right. She easily, like, if it had been Xenia and her by the end, that would have made more sense because they actually, like, spent time together, got to know one another. All of that made sense to my brain. And, because they were both dying girls, they have something else that they're bonding over, like, all of that would have made for a better ending for me than Charm just going after her. Like, it didn't work.
Yeah. Well, and it didn't feel like anybody had any personality.
Right? They were all so two-dimensional. It was so hard.
Uh-huh. And I think that's probably what made this suffer the most. Because I think if you had stronger personalities and you still had the same story, maybe it would have played out in and been more solid in what it was. But
Right.
you had this very standard Primrose, and then Zinnia was very much just wrapped up in her disease, GRM, but she
Hmm.
wasn't like fully fleshed out, and she had moments where she was just the dialogue didn't feel right.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't a bad story
No.
altogether, but I think it could have been built better.
And that's just it. You and I love fairy tales so much that we are overly critical sometimes of things compared to fairy tales or things involving fairy tales. And that's okay. Like, I'm giving it a 3-star because I thought,
Mm-hmm.
in concept, it was great. And there were certain things about it that did kind of work. But I think if it had like another 30 to 40 pages, even, it could have been that much better. And so it's close, but not quite, is where I'm
Yeah.
at on that one.
Yeah, and I was the same. I gave it 3, and I think if it just had more, it went through the editing process a little harder. I think it would have been more solid.
I think if it had started as like a 200-page novella and then gone through edits, it probably would have been okay
Yeah,
because it would have had a lot more to work with.
agreed.
So, like I said, if in fully edited mode, if it had been, another 40 to 50 pages, would be perfect. Because you could have added the things that make a fairy tale feel like a fairy tale back in, and you could have fleshed out your characters a little more by doing that. So, yeah, because this one's so short, that's kind of all I've got to say about it. I think I've said all of the crap I needed to say.
Yep,
How about
that
you?
that those were my thoughts. I think there's not a lot left to talk about.
No, we've kind of dissected it all. I mean, the whole going to the witch and the witch being a sleeping beauty, like that worked for me. That was part of the story that worked
Mm-hmm.
because that is a way to kind of fully bring home kind of the message you wanted to say, but were saying very clumsily, I think.
Great.
Sorry, I had to cough. I didn't want to cough in everybody's ears. So with that said, um, we didn't fully talk about our next pick, but I do
No.
have a very solid suggestion.
Okay.
It's an author we talked about a little bit earlier. She has a new book, and I haven't read it yet. It's got a big crowd on the cover. I was
Are
thinking
we talking
maybe
about Gilded?
Gilded. I'm talking about Gilded.
Yes.
So I'm
Yes. I
thinking
forgot
we
about that
should
one.
go to a tried and true author that we know works for us after this. I mean, we love Alix Harrow, so that's part of what like is hard about this
Mm-hmm.
one. But yeah, so I'm thinking we go Marissa Meyer. That one's got some length to it, so we'll have a lot more to talk about for the next live show. But I thought that would be a really fun one to follow this one up with.
Oh, I am in. I am
Okay.
in.
Okay, so it's decided then. Our May pick is officially Gilded by Marissa Meyer. Um, April and I have just been busy. I've been sick. She's got a new animal at home. So we're just settling into life
Yep.
again. So we should be good by the end of May. And the next live show will be on April's channel. So make sure you're following her for our discussion for your Gilded. And that's always going to be on the last Sunday of the month at the same time, which is 3 Mountain 4 Central, because that's what works best for us. So yes, the last Sunday of May, which is, let me pull up my calendar.
Yeah, I don't know. We always put up reminders and things
The
like
29th
that.
of May. So it will be over Memorial Day weekend. So if either of us end up traveling, we might switch it to
Shift it.
either, we'd probably shift it back a week at that point because it is a bit longer and go to June 5th. But I know I'm not going to be traveling. I might be working though, so I got to get that figured out real fast. So as soon as we know, we'll let you know. But the book is officially Gilded, so we are very, very excited.
Yeah.
I'm quickly putting that in the chat in case somebody misses the live show. and they just want to quickly know. All right. So with that said, I think we're going to wrap things up today. Again, make sure you're following this amazing lady, and she's linked down below. I think my stuff's down below too. But yeah. Anyways, have a great day, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.